Have you ever had a moment that felt like a dream came true, only to realize that dream wasn't quite what you thought it was a few weeks later? That was me when I purchased my first home. It was one of the most exciting days of my life. I had finally saved enough money to become a homeowner. Leading up to this, I worked 4 jobs to put myself through college and become the first graduate in my family. And I was the first one of us going to be able to purchase a piece of real estate in years. My parents were proud of me. I was proud of me. Now, this home was a fixer-upper, 2,700 square feet that had barely been touched since it was originally built in 1956. In addition to the down payment and the closing costs, I had set aside what I thought was a significant cash budget for renovations. What I didn't know is that I would encounter a lot of unanticipated major expenses through the process. I'd watched all the TV shows about flipping your dream home, but they never really focused on the part where your budget triples due to more termite damage than you found in the inspections, or you find your roof is a lot leakier than it was when you first placed an offer on a home because it had been hidden by clutter in the process. While this was happening, I had just started a new job as a private wealth banker. I really didn't want people to know about my money struggles. I didn't want them to know that what was supposed to have been a $25,000 renovation project had quickly turned into $75,000. I was stuck, drowning, and embarrassed. How many bankers do you know that have a bad credit score? I remember sitting in a bankruptcy attorney's office wondering if my personal situation was soon going to become a case for the rest of the world to read about online. But that shame and embarrassment still haunts me. If only I had been open about my situation, if only other people had been open about theirs, I would have known how to better navigate this. As I grew in my finance career, I quickly learned there were so many other financial options I could have utilized. I could have done a home renovation loan from the beginning, or taken out a home equity line of credit based on the new renovations as soon as those new renovations started revealing themselves. Instead, I thought a predatory credit card was my only option. I ended up paying a 30% interest rate just because I didn't know debt options as low as 7% also existed for my situation at that time. Did you know over 68% of Americans would rather talk about their weight than money? As a finance professional, I have spent thousands of hours having honest conversations with people about their finances. You can't hide your credit report from your lender, and I oftentimes have to provide explanations for what I read on your report before I can get you approved for any sort of loan. I see what people make, how they make it, what they owe, and why they owe it. But a lot of times I also see I'm the first person that someone has really told the truth to about what's going on with their money. On a weekly basis, I hear comments like, "My spouse doesn't even know how much we're struggling. I just don't know how to get out of this, and I don't know how to tell them." Or comments like, "I had just turned 18. I didn't know a credit card company could charge me 30% APR. The initial offer was for 0%. And my heart always breaks a little when I hear these things because I realize we live in a tough world, desperate for financial literacy. I've worked with families as they've lost children and had medical debt stack in the process. And while that medical debt stacked, so did everything else. I've worked with college students who didn't really understand how the credit card they had worked until they got a charge off and were being served papers to go to court. Single moms who can't ever seem to get ahead, in part because of the way interest tends to amortize on the front end of repayment schedules. I've worked with doctors who make over $1 million a year and still live paycheck to paycheck too. And this is where that 68% comes in. Look around the room. That means nearly 7 out of 10 people would rather talk about their weight than their money. That's the majority of us. And how many of us actually want to talk about our weight either? Over half of Americans say money has a negative impact on their mental health. And financial problems are estimated to be a factor in over 40% of divorces in the United States. Growing up, I was constantly told talking about money is taboo. But what if it wasn't? What if we started openly sharing our money stories? Not just the highlight reels of the vacations we see on social media, but the debts that finance those vacations. Over 80% of American households are estimated to have some form of debt, and consumer debt is currently at an all-time high in the US, with Americans carrying over $17 trillion. Given this data, I can't help but wonder what if. Debt is a real thing, but what if we lived in a financially literate community? What if people knew there are almost always more options for your finances than you think there are? What if we knew things like shopping lenders is actually encouraged by the credit bureaus when done within a specific time frame? You know, the American Psychological Association found over 72% of people self-report as saying money is stressing them out at least part of the time. And research from Thriving Wallet says that number is closer to 90%. Social media is flooded with how to get rich and how to build a portfolio of real estate investment properties or how to invest in the stock market, but not with how to make debt collectors stop calling you. But what's interesting is data shows when we talk openly with others about money, our net worth grows. And that data is not based on age or occupation or geography. It is based on one single defining metric. Do you talk openly and honestly with others about money or not? People often ask me, but how do I know who I can trust with my money story? What if they take what I tell them and tell someone else? To which I always reply, those are valid risks that accompany any sort of vulnerability. But what if you don't share? What if you end up like I was? What if you continue navigating the complex world of finance alone? For me, I have had people take the things I've shared with them about my money in confidence and tell them with other people in a negative light. But I have also doubled my annual household income in a single job transition just by learning what a friend honestly told me she made and then thinking, maybe I'm worth that too. And so I'll leave you with this single thought. What if talking about money stopped being taboo? What if we stopped being paralyzed in fear and shame and started openly sharing with one another? What if you leave today and just have a single conversation that could create a wave of hope in your community or with your family or with your friends? Whether you choose to talk with someone sitting next to you or you choose to call a friend who lives on the other side of the world, I challenge you to have a single conversation. It all starts with one. Thank you.